Hello and welcome to another episode of the WERF League. I am JT on Twitter. You can find me at JT _ the Ginger. And this is Sean.
And
Introduce yourself.
you can find me at Sean _ Beatty on Twitter as well.
All right. So we're still in the middle of March, or first week of March. Not much WERF League happening. I reached out to most of the participants. Unfortunately, they're busy. 'Tis the season. Hopefully trying to get a hold of them as the season progresses, April on through the Major League Baseball season. But we have a lot of spring training going on. A lot of fun watching home runs and strikeouts and player development and unfamiliar faces. It's good to have baseball back. So ultimately for this episode, I just want to talk about some one metric in particular. I've really been kind of messing around with on the side, and I just want to just talk about it and share it and kind of hash it out with someone face to face. So ultimately, I'll introduce it as it's the plate discipline index metric that Ariel Cohen, ATCNY, on Twitter introduced. I think it was spring of 2019. And he basically took the plate discipline outcomes, 6 different outcomes that a hitter or a pitcher face, and ultimately weighted them and gave it a numerical score to see how certain hitters and pitchers compare to each other. So I'm going to bring it up here and share it, and we'll get into it. Working?
Nope, I don't see nothing. There we go.
I've had some internet issues there today. I was without internet for 8 full hours of the day, and no 4G on my cell phone, no Wi-Fi on the
you were
whatever.
You were a caveman all day today.
I was stuck in 1980, whatever, 80, 81. I was 40 years in the past, but instead of like, oh, I could watch cable television, or I actually threw on a DVD Blu-ray, so I wasn't half off. Decided to watch some World War Z action, Brad Pitt.
Yeah, nice call.
All right. So ultimately, Ariel broke it down by pitcher and hitter, and he's really gone in depth. 2020, he came out with like 4 different more articles following up on the pitcher plate discipline metric, and compared it to CSW, Alex Fast's work, I think at AlexFast8 on Twitter, if I remember right. Both very great follows for fantasy baseball. And I wanted to make the formula my own because I reached out to Ariel. We're pretty tight. I helped him come up with his logo, so I DM him every so often. And I was like, looking at these pitcher ones in particular, I said, why did you weight him the certain way that you did? And he said, I took the Greg Maddux quote literally, and it says, a great pitcher throws a ball outside the zone, but makes the hitter miss, thinking it was in the zone, and vice versa. They'll throw it in the zone, and the hitter, flinch. Probably talking about like a cutter, something to that effect. So he weighted them fairly straightforward, definitely for the hitter. It's all or nothing. And so ultimately what I wanted to discuss is, out of these 6 outcomes on the left-hand side here, what would be your take on them? So I've got my own percentages, and I have some negatives because I want them to count negatively for certain aspects. And we can focus on pitchers first, and I have kind of like my own personal ranking of just visually. So we can just dive in. I'll get your take. I know this is a lot all at once, Sean, but what's your first thought?
Well, my first thought is, looking at Cohen's, is the numbers sort of seem kind of random. I don't understand why 165 versus like 90. I mean, I get where yours come from with like 75, 50, 100. I just don't know how he got to his exact percentages. Do you happen to know that?
Again, like this was a convo DM Twitter back in spring 2019. I was like, I love this. This is so straightforward, but so descriptive. It's not really projectable, but it definitely helps identify certain batters. It's just a batter's eye kind of, or a pitcher's ability to manipulate the strike zone in terms of contact.
Yeah, my initial thought looking at this is kind of agrees with you is why do you still get something for out of the zone or out of the, like you get basically some percentage other than one for doing a bad thing, and you give 0 negatives, which is what I would probably lean towards as well, especially on the pitcher side. Out of the zone, no swing. I don't see how that's still like a 10% good thing for a pitcher versus just straight up a negative.
Right. I wanted to weight all of them. I did. The way my mind works, I didn't understand why 0% would be given to a pitch that's in the zone, swung on, and contact was made. If anything, I would think that'd be a detriment to a pitcher, and not, you don't just wipe that slate clean in that aspect, I guess.
I will say one thing though. It's hard with that exact situation. It's hard to, not all those pitches are created equal. Like there's a lot of times, I'll give a personal example. I used to pitch a little bit, and when I threw, the best pitch I ever threw was a changeup low and outside, and I'll never forget it. It was the best pitch. I threw a lot of hard stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll throw some off speed. Threw it. The guy flailed at it and hit it over the first baseman for a double. And it was coming out of my hand, the best pitch I felt ever letting go, but the guy hit it. It was nowhere near the best pitch, or like I'd struck out people before on worse pitches. So I feel like in the zone contact, it being just I get you can't judge it per pitch every single time. There has to be some formula, but maybe the straight up 100 is a little harsh because sometimes the hitter either gets lucky or does the right thing. It just because it was in the zone and there was contact doesn't necessarily make it a bad pitch.
Yes. And I wanted to quantify that further for this podcast, but StatCast was being finicky.
Yeah.
And StatCast has a great search engine tool. I was actually pulling up the data, but I couldn't figure out how to export it cleanly. And the copy paste just wasn't, it was just lagging down my computer. But ultimately, you can search. What I was looking at was WOBA by zone, and if there's like 9 zones in the strike zone, and then I think the outer, each edge is 1, 2, each corner outer is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's also another one that's a little more detailed. It's like heart, and then shadow is like right on the edge of the strike zone, and that wouldn't gel with this because this is in the zone or not. So I was going with that concept, in the zone or not.
I assume this means in the zone regardless of what it's called, because are you doing a robotic? Okay. Right.
It does take that factor out of it.
Yeah, that's the only way you could really do it.
Yeah. So I guess I should say I was looking at WOBA-CON, weighted on base average on contact. Yeah. And so that's what I was more specifically looking at, because if you throw a pitch in the zone, no swing, it should be a strike 100% of the time, unless you've got Angel Hernandez behind the plate. Shots fired.
Podcast on that guy, but yeah.
Same with out of zone, no swing.
Yeah,
should be a ball. But I know Ichiro's golfed a couple off the dirt, but I mean,
Vladimir Guerrero, the dad.
Right. Man. So what I was concentrating on was the contact or no contact, and the WOBA-CON factor would have helped be more descriptive, because you got 1 out, runner on, you want to just induce weak contact low in the zone, but it's in the zone and you're just hoping for a ground ball. Like, I want more detail, and maybe that's where I take it further. I I just need to like figure out a way to do that. I've tried reaching out to a couple random people, but it's just so busy right now, and some haven't even read my DMs because I'm like, hey, hello, I'm JT. I've followed you a while, and I got recommended to you by other people that you know on a more personal level, but
well, this is
grasping
really
at
cool.
straws. So anyway, we can just
I like this.
Yeah, so we can just dive in a little bit here. So as regarding pitching, I've ranked here the same outcome, 100% and 100%. So a pitcher throwing in the zone, no swing. Same as like equal great outcome out of the zone, swung on, no contact made. And I think that was at the heart of the Maddox quote that Ariel took was his ability to manipulate the batter's eye, thinking, oh, that's a strike. Oh, no, it was way outside. I missed it. Or, oh, no, oh, backdoor cutter. Oh, that was a strike, and I didn't swing.
I have a quick question before we go further. How are foul balls measured in this? Just straight up contact?
And that's the other side of the token. What you talked about was like no umpire factor. We don't know that contact. And that's why I was trying to get the WOBA stuff and more descriptive. This is very black and white. But I'll show you in a little bit the pitchers and the hitters that ultimately, excel in certain areas. You can definitely see some make great contact, some have a great batter's eye, things like that.
Well, for those first two, I would say you've got it because they have to be viewed as the same because either way, no contact is made, and the result is the same for the pitcher. A strike is either called or given. Either way, so 100% for both of those would be exactly, I would say, the same measure, the same result.
Yeah, there was no swing, there was no contact. It's as straightforward as it gets.
Regardless, strike and no contact is made either way. So yes.
Right. Everything else regarding, there's some gray area. So the next one tier down would be the third one I have, being the pitcher threw it in the zone. It was swung on with no contact. Now, that seems legit. Yeah. You are challenging the batter in the zone, so that'd be the only risk. But with no risk, there's no reward.
Yeah.
So that one, I'm just going by percentage of 25, just to try to differentiate.
Yeah.
But like Ariel's, his are a lot closer or different.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to associate one from the other and try to be, because once we swing into the negative, that's a full polar opposite swing in terms of the way it affects the formula. And the next one being the fourth one, pitcher threw it out of the zone. It was swung on with contact. Ultimately, it would hopefully be weak contact being outside the zone, but there's still contact made. Again, like I did the search, I got to see some of that, and definitely wOBAcon overall is a whole lot lower outside the zone than in the zone, which makes sense, like if you were just to guess at it.
Yeah.
And then the two negatives I have, out of the zone, no swing. Didn't fool anyone.
Yeah.
And then, which I struggle with because that's very black and white. Whereas the one I have as a complete negative, 100% in the zone, swung on contact, and kind of what you're talking about. What kind of contact is that? Maybe.
Well, I mean, I feel that you've pretty much got it because most of the contact that's made in the zone is going to be the hardest hit. So that will obviously be worse than out of the zone contact. I mean, in general, you could have a flip, but that's the rarity, I believe. I believe you got this correct here, and in the zone contact is going to be the hardest. So that should be the pitcher's least ideal outcome. So it should be the lowest.
Okay.
I just don't. I mean, I guess I could see where you have number 3 as in the zone, no contact. You could also, I mean, it could be it could be a little even closer, a little to 100 because it's not. It's kind of it's this again. It's the same result as the other two we talked about. It is a strike with no contact made, regardless if the batter swung or not.
Right.
So it's the same as the first one. Out of the zone swing, no contact was made. In the zone, no swing, no contact was made. This one he just swung at it. So the batter. I think that this one reflects more batter, where the batter recognized it was, but still couldn't hit it. I think that has less to do. So that's why I would give it maybe not quite, maybe 100, but I'd creep up maybe a little more than 75 because it shows that the pitcher had a good pitch. It'll take a little bit of batter away though. The batter recognized it, but still was like couldn't hit it. Yeah, something like, because it's definitely optimal. I mean, the pitcher would love if you tell a pitcher he's going to do that every single pitch. He would absolutely love that. So it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So other than that, though, see, I don't understand how Cohen got those three things that you could argue are 100. They're the same outcome: a strike with no contact. How they got 3 different grades. I don't care if a pitch is out of the zone swung versus a pitch in the zone no swing. I mean, it's the same result in the end. I don't care how you get to a 1-0 count. It's just, I mean, I guess I would counter my argument of like, in general, in the zone no swinging resolves more the batter, or outside the zone swing no contact is a really good pitch. So you could break down like one tends to be more on the pitcher versus the hitter, but at the end of the bat, the strike with no contact is like the best thing you could do, regardless of how you get it.
Okay, so let's go to the pitchers, the standings. All right, there's a lot going on here, but ultimately this column is the final number that we're looking at with all the weights taken into effect. Each of those outcomes we talked about were in order, A, B, C, D, E, F, and in those also A through F follow Ariel's article as well, if you want to look that up. Try to fan graphs or rotographs, PDI or wPDI. I also added these 3 columns recently. These are regarding just when the pitcher threw the pitch and it was swung on, how well they do. Again, these are in the zone, these are out of the zone. And so ultimately I highlighted in green some of the either newer names or names that you were like, oh, they're a little bit higher than I would have thought in terms of command and control is kind of somewhat the focus here.
Jose Barrios. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I
don't think I'm as a high K/9 guy, but ultimately
that's the name that stands out. I mean, obviously this is 2020, so there's a couple like names, but I understand for like sample size. But Barrios, has been in the league for a while, so that's the name that kind of stands out. You see the monsters up there: Darvish, Bieber, Cole, DeGrom. So you see those, but Lance McCullers is nice to see. But he's always had the good stuff. It's just kind of in the other stuff that's held him back. But yeah, Jose.
Do you see that one-click scroll, Marco?
And Marco Gonzalez.
Right here. I mean, we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they rely on is command and control.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if we kind of see those 2 out all the way across, looks like from the green, they excel out of the zone with no swing. So they don't waste pitches outside the zone. If they're outside the zone, they're doing well by either getting a foul ball or weak contact, something to that effect. As we keep going, we're going to hit the middle, and ultimately anything in yellow is kind of interesting. I know Sixto has a lot of nasty stuff, and it doesn't surprise me that he'd be middle ground in terms of just he's still fairly young and trying to more control or command his nasty pitches. Dustin May would be another one.
I was gonna say a lot of Dodgers, not surprising for a lot of people.
And I think I read a recent article regarding that. Just they, as a organization, you look at the pitchers that are coming up, they've got some really great pitches, but they're not whiffs. They are inducing swings and weak contact.
That's
and as
amazing.
long as
Yeah.
they can get those outcomes, that makes for lower pitch counts and quicker innings. And
Yeah.
it's just about execution, no matter what we're talking about. It comes down to, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. I mean, bottom of the barrel in terms of fantasy baseball, not a whole lot. I mean, Bumgarner stands out here, losing some velo, and what he was able to almost kind of lean on. He's got to almost kind of reinvent himself in some way.
This is like the used to be great guys. Like you get like some Cueto, Perez. You're like, oh my god. Like I wouldn't say great for some of these guys, but like the names that used to be names a number of years ago. Rick Porcello, like
right.
Oh man,
Des
John
Sclafani.
Lester.
He's kind of
AJ Happ, Fires. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of pitchers where you're just like maybe they're on that fence of SPRP.
Yeah, or aging out of baseball.
Right.
Yeah.
Wheeler down here was kind of interesting because I know he's not a high K/9 guy. Almost kind of like a Barrios light, but what he does excel at is, again, outside the zone, not swing. So I mean, looks more like he's inducing contact or he's almost nibbling, but he's paying for it. Probably same with Chris Paddock. It sounds like he just was like, oh, analytics, never heard of her. Let me slide into those DMs over this 2020 off season.
Yeah.
So Giolito and Castillo being down here a ways, past 100.
Yeah, past 100.
Was a bit surprising.
Yeah, that is.
But I think it's just ultimately you can cluster these kind of are in a green. Hopefully that's coming across okay.
Yeah. Yep.
They excel outside the zone. All these three columns are outside the zone, and they don't excel quite as well in the zone. Interesting.
Yeah.
And that kind of gets highlighted here, where in the outsides of the zone, they're both shaded green, well, shaded yellow, middle of the pack. I don't think anyone's Jorge Lopez. I was just looking for some like outliers on what they do well near the bottom. But I mean, Boyd, he just gets up dingers. He needs to just control that. Maybe the dead ball issue will help him.
Yeah.
Justice Sheffield, Seattle. Looks like he does well inside the zone, which is promising. I would think you could, if you can do well inside the zone, then you can start. They got to respect you, and then you can start dropping those off the table. Yeah. Sliding them inside.
He's always been a tale of two halves guy, though, too. So his numbers need to equalize. Like, he needs to just get a full season and see who he really is, because he gets torched and then comes back. He's like, oh, I figured this out. And then gets torched the next year, then figures it out. Shows flashes. What was it? Trevor Bauer that far down. That was kind of surprising. What was he, like 80 something?
What was he?
Trevor, yeah. 62. Yeah.
Just kind of middle.
Because like you kind of always understand it's like stuff. Like, I mean, it's not gonna be, no metric's gonna be like the best stuff in order. But a lot of the guys at the top were really good stuff. And you always think of Trevor Bauer, especially won the Cy Young, really good stuff. But down at 62, behind like, some of these names like Rich Hill, Dustin May, you would assume he's got better stuff, but it's
if I kind of was able to like, okay, take a long picture and I scroll these top players. Ultimately, I think what these top players excel at is in the zone, except for DeGrom, which I wanted to point out. Oh, really interesting. So most excel in the zone, and then when you're near the top of this type of weighted metric, you're doing well outside the zone as well. But with DeGrom, where he's lacking is in the zone swung, no contact. So he gets hit when he's in the zone there. And in the zone, no swing. He does not a whole lot of fooling inside the zone. If it's in the zone, they're making a swing at it, seems like.
Interesting.
But his stuff is probably so well they're not squaring it up. And so that's where the Wobicon would really be interesting if I can get a hold of that sometime.
That would scare me though. Then if that stuff and that age starts to go, it's gonna go fast.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm glad I didn't draft him. So sorry who drafted him in this league.
You did draft your ace, Zach Gallen. Boom. 10.
It still makes me. I mean, it makes me feel good that he's up there, but it still makes me so nervous every time he's my number one starter.
Gallen challenge.
Every time I see that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's my number one. Like, that's terrifies me.
Maeda, another player this year. People seem really bold on, comfortable taking him.
Aaron Nola, number 2.
That's your boy.
Well, he was my boy during his bad year, and then I haven't had him since. And so I had him his rough first half of the season, and then I should have gone back that well again, but I got scared off.
Yep, and like I said, right here in the zone, lots of green near the top here. Yep. And then if you can excel outside the zone.
So the whole adage of control the zone is true? Just control the zone?
Seems like the Mariners believe that. You look at their farm system, their K to walk ratios, it seems like a focus with their pitchers.
Yeah. We'll see in a couple of years if it's the way to go, but
right. So we'll jump over to hitters. Ultimately, not much to go off the hitters. And like I said, Ariel first came out with this 2019, and I don't think he's followed up with the hitters as much. I think he's really focused on the pitchers. And so ultimately, regarding hitting, I've suggested that as a hitter, the best aspect would be in the zone, swung on contact.
Yep.
It's most straightforward. Again, there still is that gray area though.
But pretty obvious. Yeah, that's the best.
Number 2, step down, out of the zone, no swing.
Yep. Recognize the pitch. It's a ball. Let it go. Yep.
I would be willing to maybe bump that up to 100.
Yeah, that's it's probably a little less than the in the zone swing because you're going to get probably more of a rate of return on it. Because best case scenario, if you never swing is a walk, so that's a single. In the zone, hard contact is probably going to be more than a walk some of those times. So I'd say it's probably a little higher, but yeah, it's the second best you can do clearly.
Right. Next up, out of the zone, swung, contact made.
Yes.
It was out of zone. And you swung, but you had enough to get contact. You stayed in the in-bat, hopefully.
Yep. Making contact is basically these charts come down to pitchers not making contact, hitters making contact. that is
right. And that's what's the beauty of this. It's so simple, but like there's a lot of nuance to this. Yep. And then for the rest of the 3, I put these as negatives. So the least negative would be out of the zone, swung on, no contact.
Yeah, you didn't recognize. Well, I guess in the zone and no swing is also bad too because you didn't recognize the pitch. But yeah,
so out of the
zone, swing, no contact tends to look the most ugly on ESPN. So yeah.
Because in the zone, swing, no contact. You identified it was in the zone at least. That's the difference I make to the next one. Maybe I should flip those now that I just say that.
I would flip those. I would put that one and then the outside the zone one as the 75.
Yeah, now that I say that out loud, you identified it was in the zone. You just didn't have the skill enough to catch it.
Or recognize it too late or something. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, this is great. This is what I was wanting to talk about. And then the least desirable metric regarding the hitter, it was in the zone and you didn't swing.
Yeah. That's rough. That's hard to do. Yeah.
Okay. So I actually could flip those in real time if we wanted. Outcome A and outcome D. So peek behind the curtain. Outcome A, column G, worse. D is column J. Better.
Oh.
There's a few more. There we go. the sort. Oh, Luis Arise bumped up one. I forget. I don't know where that happened in real time. Okay, these are hitters. Same layout as the pitchers, but obviously there's different desirable outcomes. But as far as these columns go, A through F, they match Ariel's columns that he has in his article, A through F, same as the pitchers that we just looked at. Also analyze swing, who excels at that, and you'll notice right off the bat, Daniel Murphy retired, but he made great contact when he was swinging. The same with all these top ones, really. Yeah. McNeil, that's what they're known for, is getting the bat on the ball.
I would say the most surprising one is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and not because, but he's notorious for making hard contact, but not in the air. So that tends to show towards the type of contact meaning so much. Because his is always or it's too much on the ground, which is kind of holding him back in fantasy and in real life, which is surprising to see him 16th overall. It's just showing that there's more work to do, but this is it's right here for Vladimir Guerrero. It's like right there.
And it looks like he's, probably, I would say, solid on in the zone, and his work to do would be out of the zone, and maybe he's just a little bit too much of a free swinger trying to force it.
That would lead me to believe that it's just a swing mechanic. He needs to find a way to get that launch angle up, and that's really the only adjustment he needs to make. I mean, if he's up here, he's doing enough right to be up here. He's recognizing enough pitches and doing enough things. It's got to be that launch angle to get that ball elevated a little bit more. Because his exit velo has been great. It's just that it's on the ground, so it's got to. It's just an angle thing. So that's interesting.
Right. Yep. But a lot of these names, we know them to be great hitters. I try to highlight some in the green that are surprise. McNeil, I think we know, we're familiar with. And a lot of these would be really great walkers as well. They would get a lot of walks or have a higher percentage in terms of pitches per plate appearance as far as batters go. But Adam Frazier stuck out. I just don't know if he's had a fully. I think he had some injury bug, but he's pretty much free in fantasy drafts.
The two Giants players. Now I always heard the advanced numbers on the Giants were actually really good, and it's across the board. I heard their hitters actually on average had something like the most players with above 3 WAR or something like that offensively.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but across the board they were good. And so seeing 2 on this list of the top 19 would have surprised me before I heard that podcast. But now that I see it, it's okay, well, this kind of validates what they were saying about them being surprisingly good hitters across the board.
Right. Now that you say teams, I'm looking at teams. Springer is now in Toronto to go with Vlad right here.
Yeah, and
so we got another 2 up here, and then
what are the other guys like Bo Bichette and
that is actually something. I think Bo Bichette is near the bottom third.
And where does Biggio land there too?
I think middle of the pack. So we'll keep going through here. I can
Juan Soto
for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, somewhat near the top. Solid, if not, excel. Obviously, Soto's the big name right there. Yep. He's going to walk a lot. So when he's a beast at is
oh my gosh,
he'll take a walk.
Yeah, man, that is a number right there.
Yeah, what he's not great at is in the zone swing contact, which is interesting. I almost attribute, I think in my head when I visualize Cody Bellinger's swing, I feel like his eye level changes so much. He's got that super upright Longoria style, and then he really squats into those legs, and I feel like his eye level changes so much, and maybe he's trying to get that launch angle under the ball, but that's why I feel like Soto, to some regard, he's got that, he licks his lips and strides it out when he takes a pitch. And I know that's the name of the game, but I feel like sometimes maybe the eye level might be a factor.
Man, yeah, this doesn't count that. It doesn't account for that, but or at least this metric. But that's got it. It's like you said, like what we were talking about, Vlad. It's got to be something external like that. because clearly this shows that it's not that, so it's something extra.
Right.
It's something outside pitch recognition or contact. I really like Austin Riley this high up here. Like that is
he made some improvements last year.
Yeah.
And again, small sample, but lowered the K rate. But I mean, like if you're looking at this column, you're going to find people who walk really well. Carlos Santana, Soto, Nimmo, you know, considering batting leadoff. Will Smith is actually interesting there. As we keep going on, Rendon, you know, those are probably your better Bregman OBP right guys. So like Andy Diaz, he can take a walk, but he is not doing well inside the zone, you know, middle of the pack in terms of when he swings on it. What were the name? Oh, here's Bichette. He's got a red mark here. So I guess he's in like that transition. Still, from
not where he's being drafted as much, like 80, 82. Yeah, he's man, outside the zone. Ooh, ugly.
He excels when he swings.
Yes.
All these in the zones are a little bit
so green, throw him stuff outside. Hope he chases. Okay.
When you compare all the in the zone qualities, middle of the pack. Interesting. But yeah, outside the zone, he's just looking to make contact.
So he's just too aggressive, is what this metric's saying.
And maybe if that flushes out, maybe he's not a top of the order hitter. Maybe he's 5-hole or something like that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a nice point of this metric is like, flushing out who you really are.
Winker walks, you know.
Jackie Bradley Jr. being not a bad hitter. Like that definitely plays.
Rosario's not a walker. Obvious. Contact, solid. Yep. Does not excel outside of the zone swing contact. So he makes weak contact outside the zone. Most likely.
Okay. Very interesting.
Let's see. Let me scroll all the way to the bottom and get some of these questionables. Evan White.
Kyle Lewis, Evan White, Shud Long. Oh my gosh, Mariners, what are we doing over here?
You know, everyone I'm being really critical, but Evan White, you know, short season, small sample, you know, he's Goldie 2.0 light to me.
Man, it was just such a rough year. It just nothing that guy could do. He just couldn't catch a break.
Here's an interesting one also. Soler and Chapman.
And Javi Baez right there, too, in front of him. Javier Baez.
Yep.
Hey,
I would think he would excel swinging more because, he does not walk that much.
Hey, Oscar Hernandez. That was a guy you couldn't pay me to draft.
We need some Franchi. So Kyle Lewis, here's another Mariner bottom.
Rookie of the year, the 250th right there.
You know what he does well? He does well at outside the zone swing contact.
Because he goes the other way. He takes it the other way. He just like leans into it. He's looking for it almost.
Another big, I just highlight some big names. Chapman down here, David Fletcher down here, which was surprising because I thought he would be okay. He is a solid contact, but he's not going to take almost like you think of a lesser version of Ichiro. Ichiro would never walk, and you always wanted him to at least try to take a walk, but he felt like he could get a base hit out of anything, and he wasn't really scraping any walls. So,
Franmil Reyes, Sano, Joey Gallo, these big boppers, these guys who just are like, look, let's just get out there and do the thing.
Also walked pretty well. Dylan Moore. I forget what my threshold was for plate appearances regarding hitters.
He had to have been close to it.
So he'd probably.
So did Mondesi. Mondesi got hurt last year too.
Yeah, he had a really strong last.
Yeah. That's what saved him, man. He was, oh my gosh, the beginning was rough.
So, I mean, there's almost Yeah, 250 plus players, but just kind of identifying. I'm a big Yastrzemski guy, but he's down here as well.
Nelson Cruz. What is Nelson Cruz? He's 216. Oh, man.
So just a lot to take in. I know we're just kind of skimming over it, but like certain things pop up.
Well, this is really interesting, Jake. Ronald Acuna at 185. What? Oh man. Outside the zone. Inside the zone. Rough.
Yeah.
Man. Wow. He's really good outside that zone though. Like,
Yeah, per each individual column, he's
does that tend to,
slightly
with
above.
righties and stuff like that, does that tend to lean towards the guys who go the other way? Like they just take it? They look to go the other way more often? It's got to be like, because that's what I kind of view with like, at least the Kyle Lewis and some of these other guys is like the righties that I'm seeing on this board tend to go the other way more. That at least they're like, when they're good outside the zone, it tends to. I guess I would go for lefty too. Lefties who go outside the zone tend to.
Jeez, just sorry, I was looking like bright green, Yelich,
Christian
outside the
Yelich.
zone, no swing. He just no, not
No.
today. He owns outside the zone.
Man, well, this is cool. This is cool.
JP Crawford, interesting that he's like middle of the pack here. I'm not really high on him. Like I know he's the Mariners starting shortstop. I don't think he really has a whole lot of competition. I saw him in spring training and I wrote down a note and I was just like, he stands just really open and tall. And then at the last second, he coils up and lets it go. And
yeah,
I feel like he's just moving. That's just too much movement for someone who should he walks okay, but I think he needs to just try to make solid contact and use his speed to try to get a half step, get it on base a little bit more.
Mariners side, I thought Omar Narvaez would have been better outside the zone than he was, but I guess maybe last year was a rough year, probably. But in a normal year, I feel like his outside the zone is would be much higher than that.
Yeah, and with all these catchers, we can be more demanding of them because that's their livelihood. Ultimately, no excuses. Play like a champion. Rule number 76.
Mike Trout 154. Whew. Outside the zone domination.
Yeah, and where's he weak at? In the zone, no swing.
Byron Buxton is not outside the zone.
Red.
Man.
Outside the zone, no swing.
They're polar opposites. Mike Trout and Byron Buxton. Good to know.
Mookie down here. Interesting, right?
Most of those crazy league hitters you think are actually not anywhere near the top. Go back up to the top again. Like the very tip top.
Oh, here's Biggio. Sorry. I just saw his name real quick. So he's in like that middle half.
Okay. Who's it?
Excels outside the zone. Obviously, he walks.
Yeah.
So I think he takes too many.
That's the adage with him. Yeah, he walks way too much.
Yeah. Brantley, a great contact hitter, swing, a little bit above average there. So go back to the top, get some names.
Yeah, who was?
Sorry, I saw Tatis. We're just
so all these elite guys. So who was like the top 10 guys? I can't even remember.
For now. What? How do you want to filter it? Oh, just in terms of everything.
I mean, I guess Freeman, Corey Seager, I could see Tucker. Rendon. I mean, Tucker, late season, but Rendon, Seager, Freeman, those are the beasts. It's just kind of like Brandon Belt and, Gio Urshela, Albies, of all the Atlanta guys, you would have thought, but he just controls inside the zone. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's kind of seen over here. A lot of green.
Control the zone.
Top. They know the zone and they do well.
I guess this shows you that for the pitchers, it's more control the zone. It's the hitters is like, you like the Trouts and the Acuñas. You don't have to necessarily control the zone as much, but when you do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys, they may not control it as well as the other guys, but when Trout controls the zone versus Matt, or I don't know, I thought it was Gurriel. Trout's doing more damage once he makes his move, and I think that's like the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tsutsugo, interesting. I forget how his 2020 played out, but he's up here near the top fifth. And I mean, on that team, if he's more of a leadoff, could excel in that regard.
All right, very cool.
All right, lots to think about. I'm gonna keep playing with this. I'm trying to look at some Wobicon stuff and maybe try to just get a little bit more detail. I don't know what I'll do with this ultimately. Maybe all those feelers I sent out to various random fantasy baseball Twitter people will get responses back, and we'll try to move this on to the next level. I'll probably reach out to Ariel again if he has any input now that he's been able to further think about the pitching side. Maybe he has more on the hitting side coming up. Writing, again, busy time of the year, lots of busy people, but ultimately just some fun, interesting way to kind of look at a different kind of metric. And hey, it's baseball. That's
cool.
what we love.
That's cool.
All right, Sean, thanks for joining me here.
Yeah.
Hopefully next week we'll have a little bit more WERF type topics to talk about. But like I just said, as long as we're talking about baseball, it's fun.
Yep.
You can find Sean on Twitter at Sean_Beatty. I am JT at JT_the Ginger. Until next time, thank you much. Have a good one.
Sweet.